Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, depending on if and when you're watching this video. I have taken some of the first rough drafts that came through in sixth grade English and tried to examine them to see what can we learn, whether good, whether something we need to not do from these rough drafts, actual student work being performed in real time as well. So if I can find the play button, I will be good to go. Here we go. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll talk about some of these. I know it's a lot of information, so you're not going to be expected to remember these. These are going to be hung up for you as far as a way to have some things to focus on in your revision. So what can we learn from some rough drafts? If we take a look at this opening or this piece from a student. This is the title of this article is Noticing Mistakes Boost Learning by Allison Pierce Stevens. The yes here is that you do want to focus on authors and titles, making sure like this person that you capitalize them, put them in quotes. You don't necessarily have to write out the full author name, but it definitely wouldn't hurt as well. It allows you to stay focused. If you don't know what to call it, like an article or a short story, a great thing to default to is to call it a passage. So the title of this passage is, and then that way you can feel comfortable whether it's fiction, historical fiction, nonfiction, because a passage would just be a piece of text that's included. So you do want to use an author's last name if you're looking for an easier one-word way to introduce. So instead of using Allison, we would use her last name, just the last one, not the middle name as well, unless it's hyphenated. One thing that shows up in student writing is a problem because there's a lot of different types of writing. So if you're writing a personal essay about your life, you definitely use I. If you're writing about a group of people, you might say we all love to revise our essays. So when you're using academic writing and your rubric says that you have to maintain a formal style, you do want to keep it away from the personal level. It's almost like you are examining what's happening in the text, talking about it like a teacher or a professor or someone who's really there to break down information. So you do want to keep your personal opinion in this type of writing, text-based writing, to a minimum. So the computer scanner does not want to see a lot of I's, we's, you. So we want to talk about what the text says, not necessarily what all of our feelings were about the text. So you have to be careful when you use the author's words. And one of the reasons why I feel that Huntington students score so badly on our AIR assessment is that when they go to write, they are not having a balance between the author's words and their words. So first of all, if you use an author's words, word for word, that they mentioned in the article, like bad rap or mull it over, it is supposed to be in quotation marks as well. And the computer does look for that as far as citation is concerned. So you also need to know that if you have too much word for word from any kind of author or article, that the computer will sometimes default and give you an unscorable score because there's not enough text, not enough writing in there that is actually in your own words. And it can definitely tell that because it's an advanced computer program and it will compare the amount of words from the article to the amount of words that you have. So we really are striving to try to put things in our own words. More on that later. So we talked about formal style and academic writing. You can see the little, crosses or little arrows, marks that I made through. This is the end of my story. Probably best not to talk about your piece of writing specifically. We know that you're writing, and actually we know that it's the end because if you were a person who was reading it, that would already be implied. Now, something good that this person has done is that at the beginning, they've attempted a concluding statement. So all of this is showing us that you have a growth mindset, kind of a final statement over the article prompt, which was what's the connection between learning and making mistakes. So it's always good to come back to that learning prompt. So this one doesn't come directly back, but it does strive to make that conclusion. Stay away from vocabulary. that you don't understand. The subjunctive is one of the hardest grammatical concepts, and it's a word that I know that most of you have not seen. So, since you have the choice about what you're going to write about and what you don't, uh, stay away from things that you may not fully understand, and then you're not wasting any of your quotes on something that when you're not really feeling comfortable to explain anyway. The variety of word choices on your rubric, and that's definitely a struggle for our district. And you want to look for repetition. So here we see the repetition of the word wrong and kid, and even I see here the repetition in a close amount of space of fixed as well. That one's going to come up a lot as well. So keep in mind that you have to try to find a way to vary things up. They don't want to mess up on something. They don't want to make an error. They don't want to do something wrong. They don't want to have a mistake. They don't want to cause a problem. Sometimes you have to really push those, but that's more for revision than for like your first draft, because that you can pay much better attention to that in revision. Look at these beautiful transitions here. And I don't think you could do too much. It's an easy way to score higher on your AIR assessment, as long as you can remember and learn throughout the course of English 6 some transitions that you like to use. So here you can see in the second passage, introducing the quote, and then throughout the second passage, leading in. So just like this person has done, or not like this person has done, if you're going to go through the trouble of putting in a quote, you have to follow it up with what you think it means. Please be confident. These computer scores, unlike your English teachers, can't truly read and process overall ideas. So you should feel free to give it your very best go, have swagger, have confidence, and really try to explain it as fully as you can. Look at the words they use. What do you think that means? You're going to have that for your text balance, and it's going to help you get that development that you deserve, and that will get you the kind of development that we're looking for. So there's a word, it's entitled plagiarism. Plagiarism is any time you use another person's work without attributing it back to the source, without giving credit to the source. So remember that if you're using quotes, especially long quotes, that can be dangerous. So put quotes first around what doesn't belong to you, and that saves you from that. And it also helps you understand kind of what's yours and what's the author's. So this second part, when it switches to I, is the author talking about himself. We can't really tell that without the quotation marks as well. Watch that balance. It's not worth it. One of my favorite things to do as an English teacher is help replace the word thing with something, because dear thing, you are something. And so if we look up here and try to find the word thing, it's in that yellow piece. Pay close attention to the person talking to you, or you can learn some other things. Typically, you can just take things out, the person talking to you, and you can learn. You can also rename thing. What is the thing we're trying to learn? Information, facts, skills. So things in itself doesn't mean anything. And when you use it, it will score and drag your score down for word choice as well. It is, I don't want to say it's an illegal word. It's just a very vague, general word, and we want to avoid it. The same is true with good and bad. That good and bad are not going to get you any meat as far as your word choices are concerned. And I know you guys know a lot of other words. So when you go look at revision, hopelessness is negative. Okay, trying to get rid of thing too. Hopelessness can have a negative impact. Hopelessness is undesirable. Now, if I had a thesaurus like you guys do on Google Docs, I would be looking through there being like, man, what can I find that I know that doesn't make me sound like I'm trying too hard, but that can raise my word choice. Also, look at that nice transition. If you never know how to transition through ideas, you can always try first, secondly, thirdly, lastly. Also, all of those are some good transitions to integrate. What is this thing? Okay, can you figure out what the thing is? If you were hopeless and thought you couldn't do something, you would put in less effort. This is one thing you will almost face. So this is an event, this is an occurrence,